Kaustubh Belapurkar, Director Fund Research and Morningstar Investment Advisor India, joins us on the show right now. Kaustubh, morning. Good to have you on the show as always. Lots of developments with banks. While the NBFC crisis is not at its peak worse, but yeah, it continues to be a big overhang. Firstly, what is it that you're witnessing in terms of flows in the banking space?
Sure. So to start off with, it's kind of been a slow month in the office for the fund managers. I mean, overall the flows itself from domestic investors have slowed down a tad. There's still about 5,000 crores, but that's lower than what has been printing over the last year or so. If you look at what the managers have really been kind of targeting, they've moved to the larger corporate banks. HDFC continues. Some of the other names like ICICI, Axis are some of the largest buyers for this month. And that's a trend that we've been seeing, money towards ICICI and Axis kind of increasingly moving in. So I think that's one broad-based trend that is, we expect to continue for some time.
So, the real pain is being felt in the broader end of the market. Week after week, we're seeing a solid underperformance. What is the data with respect to some of the top mid-caps that have been sold?
Right. So mid-caps, it's actually been a little bit of a mixed bag. Okay. So we've seen some of the gold finance companies which had kind of fallen off the cliff after demon. They've kind of been here and there. They've come back up quite sharply since last year. We saw some profit booking on that. Manappuram, the likes of Muthoot. HEG is an interesting play where we've seen a very sharp drop off in the price, almost 50-55%. That's another play that managers have, they've probably made 10x money in that, but seen a sharp drop in price, so they've taken some money off the table there. So these would be some of the larger plays on the mid cap side where we've seen some selling.
What about autos? Do they continue to see outflows, or are people buying in at declines?
Yeah, so that's actually an interesting trend that we're just spotting, that Maruti continues to see some quibbling of outflows. It's not large, but there have been some selling. But the auto anchors, especially the likes of some of the tire companies or the likes of Exide, they've been seeing some buying, and that's something that we've been seeing over the last few months. But Maruti, the likes of Eicher, continue to, we're seeing some outflows on those counters.
What about the top mid-cap and small-cap holdings?
Yeah, so interesting again, that plays kind of, so we've seen a couple of technology companies that we've seen buying into, the likes of Persistent or Hexaware on the mid-cap side. The other thing that's heartening to see is, some likes like Indian Hotels or Jubilant, we continue to see some buying. So that would be like the broader trend in terms of the consumer spending that's really playing out on the mid-cap side.
And pharma, how does that stand right now?
Pharma is very flat. It's become...
It's flat, it's not weak?
It's flat. I was looking at the names, probably the likes of Natco got some buying, but otherwise Cadilla, Lupin, there's been some selling, but it's not very large selling. But that's a counter. I think we saw some exciting action last year, but now it's kind of just fallen off the radar really for most managers.
What else? Because you've seen the ADAG groups pretty active on the back of high volumes. There are the news flow driven stocks like a Jet Airways, like Yes Bank, for instance. What's been your observation? Because they've been so sensitive to the news flow on a daily basis.
Absolutely. And that's actually a good point that you bring up. So in fact, when you look at some of the sells that have happened, the likes of Reliance Infra, Apollo Hospitals, two names that were actually there because of the pledge share sort of news that's been coming out. We've been seeing some selling on that. Yes Bank, there's been some selling, but if I look at the previous month's trend where there was buying, so it's more just some money being taken off the table, not really a trend that I would draw from there.
I don't spot metals at all on the buy or the sell list.
Yeah, metals is something that's kind of just out of fashion right now. So probably some marginal buying in Hindalco, but otherwise it's pretty flattish.
Okay. All right, Kaustubh, it's been great having you on board.
Thank you.
Many thanks for joining in our studios, giving us a sense as to what's in, what's out, what's the data looking like, as well as individual sectors.